viewers, today let us study the Metamorphoses by Ovid, which deals with the different stages of human generations. Let us look at the introduction to the author to begin with. Publius Ovidius Naso, a 2nd century Roman poet, mostly known as Ovid in English, was born in Sulmo in Italy. He is one of the prominent poets in Latin literature and is always compared with Virgil, the famous poet, and some of his other contemporaries. Ovid was one of the Roman poets who lived during the regime, that is, the period of the Roman Emperor Augustus. It was the time when art and literature flourished and reached to its heights. His patronage played an important role in the artistic achievement of the Augustan age, the period of Augustine's rule. Now, Ovid was known for his artistic creativity and educative principles of his contributions. His knowledge and research of various fields made him equipped for writing popular poetic schemes that he is well known for. He was treated as the master of elegiac couplets. Ovid brought a change and used elegiac couplet form of love poetry. This can be studied from the love poems that he has written. These love poems have a bitter treatment of love and marriage. Ovid married 3 times and his attitudes are reflected very well in his poetry. He wrote Amores, a book of love poems, the Heroides, a series of letters about heroines, and the Ars Amatoria, a book of advice about love, the Remedia Amoris, about the cure for love and the problems that would arise, the Medicamina Facere Feminae, about women's cosmetics and disguise. He was in exile for his love affair with Julia, who happens to be the granddaughter of Emperor Augustus, and his compositions like Song and Error, the Metamorphoses and Fasti, were written during this period of his exile. Such a prolific poet had a dream that his works should be read by people in the future as well. They should not be restricted to the people of only his period, but in future generations as well, his poems and his works should be read and appreciated. And this has come true, because today we see and the records show that Ovid is one of the widely read poets all over the world, even in the modern times. The structural point of view, Ovid's Metamorphoses comprises 12 books, which describe the story of human decadence and regeneration. It begins with the creation of the world and the regeneration of human life on the earth after the great flood, in which the entire human life came to an end, except a Greek couple, Deucalion and his wife Pyrrha. These were the only 2 survivors. The whole description is a mixture of scientific and supernatural terms. All the 12 books elaborate various stages of human life and the transformations which took place during that time. The word metamorphosis itself means transformation, a change. So, we find transformation as the guiding theme of this work of art. Structurally, as discussed, it is a compilation of over 200 different myths, stories, legends, fables, etc., in some sort of a chronological order. Ovid thinks that love is a major transforming factor in human life. That is the major theme we find in his works. All the transformations presented in this epic take place due to the element of love. He treats that as the basic reason for any transformation. It doesn't mean that the love factor is triumphant all the time, but in most of the stories, love does play a crucial role and brings certain physical as well as psychological transformations in various characters, and this is seen throughout the play. From the structural point of view, we discussed that it comprises 12 books. Book 1 comprises many stories. It has the stories of the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze, and even the Iron Age. Similarly, it comprises the stories of Prometheus, Deucalion and Pyrrha, Apollo and Cupid, Jupiter and Juno. Ovid talks of the creation of the world, but he limits his scope to certain regions. The stories presented in this epic mostly show its action at the ancient Mediterranean world, including Greece, Rome, North Africa, and Asia. Coming to the tone that is used and the language we find in the Metamorphoses, Book 1. Ovid's Metamorphoses is an epic which is not retelling the myths and stories in a straightforward way. The poet uses various techniques. The action moves backward and forward. A flashback technique is used frequently, and characters keep appearing and reappearing according to the requirement of the stories. Ovid often twists around the myths and characters, making them look ridiculous or fixing on strange details. He has used a witty, humorous tone throughout the play. In addition, we also notice that the character portrayal is malicious in tone. We find a kind of malice when we are encountering with the characters. Ovid did not use his favorite customary elegiac couplet form to write this epic of love. The compilation of these stories is composed in dactylic hexameter, the classic meter for epic. Dactylic hexameter means 6 feet, where each foot is dactyl, and dactyl means a long syllable followed by 2 short syllables. Hexa, which means 6, and meter is a unit of measurement. So, the hexameter means a poetic meter with 6 measures. Ovid uses almost all the poetic devices in his epic. He uses devices like metaphor, simile, imagery, a lot of imagery, personification, alliteration, hyperbole, metonymy, onomatopoeia, etc. very effectively. These elements of language are made to the best of the use in his epic. We start with the character Prometheus. Prometheus is the son of Lapithus. Saturn, the king of gods during the Gold Age, orders him distinguish the inhabitants into various regions. Gods and goddesses live in heaven, beasts on the earth, fish in the sea, birds in the sky, and human beings on earth as the rulers of the world. In the course of time, Prometheus puts everything in order and gets the credit for making human beings from clay and rainwater. Then we have Jupiter. Jupiter is considered to be the most powerful god. He is the god of love and lust. He always hunts for beautiful women for his lust and gratification. His wife Juno always keeps tracing him to his adultery and wants him to be loyal towards her. In Book 1, Jupiter visits Lycaon, who does not recognize him as a god. Jupiter gets angry and decides to punish him for his disregard and treachery. He flattens Lycaon's palace and takes the help of his brother Neptune, the god of seas, to create the great flood, which destroys the entire human existence on the earth. His physical assault on the young nymph Io is suggestive for his temperament and loose character. Then we have Juno. She is the jealous queen of the gods. She always suspects Jupiter for adultery and wants him to be loyal towards her. She always keeps tracing her husband's misdeeds so as to suppress his lust for other beautiful women. In an attempt, Jupiter rapes Io, a nymph. The moment Jupiter notices that Juno has come to the spot, he tries to hide the fact from her and transforms her into a cow, which later Juno observes closely due to her suspicion. Juno keeps a many-eyed Argus to watch the transformed Io in the form of the cow. She wants to keep a track of this cow and wants to know the reality of that character. Then we have Lycaon. Lycaon does not believe Jupiter as a god. Once Jupiter, the god of love, visits Lycaon, but he is dishonorably treated because he does not believe him to be a god. Lycaon also attempts to kill Jupiter when he is sleeping. Jupiter gets angry and decides to avenge the entire human race, and he thinks of the great flood. Lycaon's palace is flattened and he is sent to the wildlife as a transformed wolf. Jupiter's outrage is reputed to have brought the great flood that wiped out all the human beings on the earth, but for a Greek couple, Deucalion and his wife Pyrrha. They are the only ones who survive. Jupiter takes the help of his brother Neptune, the god of sea, and his subordinates, gods of rivers, to drown the earth with water. Then we have Io. We have seen that she is transformed into a cow. A young beautiful nymph. She was trapped by the god of love and lust, that is Jupiter. Jupiter uses his supernatural powers and covers a part of the earth with dark and thick clouds and rapes Io. Jupiter's wife suspects that there is something wrong behind the dark clouds, and she starts the pursuit of her husband with the suspicion that he must be attempting to seduce some women. After the rape, Io is transformed into a cow so as to hide the reality from Juno, which she subsequently comes to realize. Then we have the only Greek couple surviving after the great flood, that is Deucalion and Pyrrha. They stay alive after the colossal decay. They were supposed to repopulate the world again as per the advice of the goddess Themis. Pyrrha was disheartened initially but was convinced by Deucalion later. Ovid depicts that Deucalion and Pyrrha repopulate the earth once again and streamline the human life. We also have Apollo. Once Apollo speaks to Cupid unsympathetically. So Cupid shoots 2 arrows in retaliation, resulting in Apollo falling in love with Daphne, who flees and does not give any response to him. Apollo pursues her for long, but in vain, no use. Apollo pleads and persists, but Daphne cries and calls upon her father for help. Apollo transforms her into a laurel tree and gropes it to feel her presence. So these are the characters that we come across in Ovid's The Metamorphoses. Ovid begins the book 1 of the Metamorphoses by invoking the gods and goddesses and offers a prayer to please them. He asks the gods to make him well equipped with all literary weapons so as to write this great work of art, this epic. The book opens with the creation of the world and continues till the present day. After the prayer, he describes the formation of the world and the beginning of life on earth. In the beginning, everything was messed up and disorderly. Nothing was in order. It was chaotic. Then the God made the proper division. He decides places. The heaven was separated from the earth, the land from the sea, lighter air from the heavy air, and underworld for the dead, and so on. Then Ovid describes the inhabitants of these regions. Gods and goddesses would live in heaven, beasts on the earth, fish in the sea, and birds in the sky. In the course of time, everything was settled and it was put in order. Prometheus, the son of Lepidus, gets the credit for making human beings from clay and rainwater. As per the god's wish, man was created to rule the world. The human beings ruled the world for generations together and have experienced 4 different ages: the Golden Age, the Silver Age, Bronze Age, and Iron Age so far. The Golden Age was the fruitful phase of human existence where there was a lot of happiness. People were trustworthy, moral, and lived their esteemed life with constructive, fruitful cooperation for one another. They did not need to work, but still they enjoyed all the glories of life. So it was called the Golden Age. During this age, Saturn was the king of gods. Then Jupiter kicked off Saturn and declared himself as the king of gods. Then begins the Silver Age. The situation slightly changed. From gold, it comes to silver. So people had to work for their survival. Human labor was the main feature of that age. The 4 seasons were introduced, which brought the cycle of nature into existence. The Bronze Age, which followed, brought a radical change in the survival of human beings. The growing number of people created differences which resulted in conflicts, wars, fights, disputes, and everything. Only in the Bronze Age, people experienced war and conflicts, but it has some semblance of morality and a kind of principled life. Then came the Iron Age, the worst age of human existence. Conflicts went to the extremes and family ties weakened. People killed one another, even their kith and kin, for their benefits. Moral and ethical values were nowhere to be found, and nothing remained sacred. Further, Ovid describes the Iron Age as the most degenerated aspect of human existence. In this age, God appeared and witnessed human wickedness and impiety. In this context, Ovid refers to Jupiter, the god of love, who visits Lycaon, does not believe in Jupiter as a god, but Jupiter is most dishonorably treated, and he even attempted to murder the former when he was sleeping. Jupiter became angry with Lycaon and decided to avenge the entire human race. That led to the flood, the great flood which had eradicated the entire human race but for the Greek couple Deucalion and Pyrrha. In the following description, Ovid writes about Apollo and Cupid. Apollo speaks to Cupid unsympathetically, so Cupid gets angry and he shoots 2 arrows in retaliation, resulting in Apollo falling in love with Daphne, who flees and does not give any response to him. Apollo tries to pursue her for long, but it goes in vain. So he finally transforms her into a laurel tree and gropes it to feel her existence. At the same time, Jupiter catches sight of a young nymph Io, who fills his heart with lust. He tries to convince her, but he fails. So ultimately, Jupiter rapes her to gratify his lust, and Juno, the wife of Jupiter, keeps tracing his moves and suspects him for his endless lustful acts. As soon as Jupiter feels her presence, he transforms Io into a cow, and Juno continues to suspect him and demands the cow as a present. Juno keeps many-eyed Argus to keep watch on the transformed Io. Jupiter cannot tolerate Io's sufferings and sends Mercury to kill Argus. Mercury succeeds in his attempt and kills Argus. Io is brought back to her original form as a nymph, and later she has a son by Jupiter named Epaphus. Let us have a look at the thematic concerns that we find in the Metamorphoses, Book 1. The Book 1 has the following themes which we can study in different contexts. To start with, we have the theme of transformation. As discussed earlier, it is one of the major themes that we find in this epic. Since the beginning, we come across a number of transformations in the Book 1. The transformation of Lycaon as a wolf, Daphne as a laurel tree, and Io as a cow are quite suggestive in establishing the fact that the theme of transformation is a recurring theme in this work of art. Actually, Ovid's Metamorphoses, the title itself is apt and suggestive. Metamorphosis, the word itself means change, transformation, right? So in this epic, there are number of transformations which take place and time and again in almost all the 12 books, and basically in Book 1 we observe a lot of transformations. Then secondly, we have a theme of love and sex. Since the theme of transformation is one of the major themes in Ovid's epic, all these transformations take place because of love. It means love becomes the instrument of certain transformations in the series of stories which we read. Obviously, the theme of love and sex is also one of the major themes that we come across. Jupiter's pursuit of Io and her rape, Apollo's perseverance to win Daphne and her love, Juno's passionate intensity for Jupiter, and Deucalion's love for Pyrrha, etc. are the instances which suggest that we find this as a major motive. Then we have the theme of revenge. The theme of revenge is also a recurring theme in this epic. The basis of the epic is a colossal decay which takes place after the revengeful act of Jupiter to avenge human beings, to take a revenge against them. Lycaon does not believe that Jupiter is a god, and once Jupiter is dishonorably treated and almost murdered, Jupiter tries to destroy Lycaon completely, and he wants to take revenge against the entire human race. Jupiter's outrage brought the great flood that wiped out all the human beings on the earth except a Greek couple, Deucalion and his wife Pyrrha. Jupiter takes the help of his brother Neptune, the god of sea, and his subordinates, gods of rivers, to doom the earth with water. So this makes it clear that we have the theme of revenge being very prominent in the epic. Ovid's The Metamorphoses, is one of the longest surviving Roman poems. It is a masterpiece in itself and has excellence in poetic creativity. He generated perfect lines of poetry with wide vocabulary, a brilliant sense of metaphor, and vast learning. After this brief presentation on the Metamorphoses Book 1, you might be interested to know a little about the series of 12 books that would be like an assignment for you to do. Thank you.